So, my dear friends, I'm back again after a long time. I was out for a few days and also not keeping too well. But now I'm back. And it's an important week for us as we begin the Advent season as such. Before that, this particular week, it's called the penultimate week. Next Sunday is the feast of Christ the King. And the church builds up the liturgical season in a way that the next Sunday, as we celebrate the feast of Christ the King, everything is offered at the feet of Christ the King. To say that He is the King of the whole universe, the heavens. And that is how the church presents the next Sunday's liturgy. And this Sunday, the last Sunday, I would say the penultimate Sunday, the church explains about the last things. The last things. What can happen in the last things? And so in the readings of all the three readings of today, we find that a mention is made of the last things, which are a little frightening, but then this is what will happen at the last time. So, my dear brothers, I welcome you for this session, and I begin with the message of this week. The readings, as I said, they speak about the last things. And the gospel itself speaks about the temple of Jesus. You know, the Jews were very fond of the temple. For them, that was the focal point, that was the climax, as it were, of their journeys. And they never imagined to say that anything could happen to the temple. And they said, no, it cannot. Because the temple, according to them, is something like an eternal body, an eternal structure. But then Jesus, in today's gospel, hints that even the temple will be affected. There will not be a stone upon a stone, which means it will be demolished. Though Jesus openly doesn't say who will demolish it, but then he predicts or prophesies this particular message, which the Jews in history, they found it very, very difficult to digest, very, very difficult to accept it. But that was the message. And so Jesus tells the people that at the end of times, there will be many things that are happening, the earthquakes, the floods, and perhaps the plagues, and great signs and symbolic gestures will be there in order to explain to us about the last things. And there will also, Jesus says, there will also be persecution. Persecution is always there when there is a fight between right and wrong. When the wrong people want to insist that the wrong is right, God comes to say that this is not true. And therefore the persecution or fight over the just things happens. But then Jesus consoles His people. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid of even what you have to say at those times, because the words will be put into your mouth. You don't have to say, but God will speak on your behalf. God will speak on your behalf. And not only that, do not prepare yourself as to what to say or what to this one, but I will give you the eloquence, Jesus seems to say. And Jesus warns them about the future. You will be betrayed. Betrayed not by your enemies, but those of your family. Those within your household will betray you. Friends will betray each other. And you will also be put to death. But do not be afraid. Even a hair of your head, Jesus tells them, will not move out without God's permission. If only as God has willed it, this will happen to you. And your endurance will win your lives forever. So though the reading is frightening, the message is very strong. For those who endure, God will be there with them. God will not terrify them. Rather, they will be welcomed into the kingdom of heaven. The second reading of Thessalonians, St. Paul's put it nicely. He says, do not waste your time. Do not spend your time idly, but do useful things, waiting for the day of the Lord. And so if the day of the Lord comes, you are prepared for it. You are prepared for it. You don't just sit in your armchair and say the day of the Lord will come, and I go on wasting my time. St. Paul says, don't waste your time. Be active, be zealous, and be involved in something or other. So my dear brothers and sisters, as the Church prepares us for these last things and the last moments, let us also prepare for ourselves. The end is always there. We can't go on postponing to say that I will not die. I have so many years to live. But death, as you know, comes like a thief. And therefore, let us prepare ourselves, let us prepare our journey, let us prepare according to the season as God gives us an opportunity. The second thing which I would like to say is the World Day of the Poor. You know, the Church celebrates the last week, the 33rd Sunday, keeps it up as the Day of the Poor. Perhaps you may ask why. It all started with Pope Francis, who was very close to the poor, who always mentioned the poor, and perhaps in order to symbolize and signify that next Sunday when we present ourselves to the Christ the King, it will always be not only in glory, but also the poor will be considered. And so this year also we celebrate the Jubilee of the Poor, and so joining the Universal Church in recognizing Christ's presence in the least and the marginalized. That is the celebration of the World Day of the Poor. That the poor are not excluded, that the poor are considered out of our programs, of our what we call the sense of being together. The poor are always there. You know, the Gospel said the poor will always be with us. You can't think of a type of a season or perhaps a time where the poor will be excluded or poor will not be there. That will never happen. The poor will always be there. And so strengthen your solidarity with the poor, because the poor are always with us. The poor will always be there. And the greatest poverty is not physical poverty, but the greatest poverty is not knowing God. That is the greatest poverty. And so, go beyond charity and work and justice in education, labor, housing, health. Let all these categories consider the poor as part of their program also. So therefore, my dear brothers, let us also remember the poor in this last week of the year, the 33rd week of the year. Let us prepare ourselves and at the same time accommodate the poor among us. Thirdly, there is perhaps a small announcement or rather clarification that I had to give. What about the Advent season? The Advent season, the color of the Advent season is the purple color, which means a penitential color. So therefore we don't celebrate it, let us say, with a bash, like in other seasons. The Advent season is always a limited, a controlled season. So therefore, what about marriages? There are many marriages that are coming up because they may not have the information, they may not have the clarifications. And so people are asking, are the marriages forbidden in the Advent season? My answer is, they are not forbidden, because marriage is a fundamental right. Even in the Lenten season, the season of what we call the fasting and penance and prayer, the weddings can be celebrated, but depending on the temper. The weddings in the Lenten season and also the weddings in the Advent season are not celebrated with celebration as such. They are subdued, to the extent that we honor the sacrament, but the celebration part of it, if we can postpone it to another time, would be much better. Otherwise, we refrain from celebrating it. For example, there is no flower decorations as such. Perhaps 1 or 2 flowers that can be kept as a symbolic gesture. The music, it's not pompous, but a limited, maybe 1 instrument or so. So also the decorations are not exquisite. So these are the things that we have to control, and we say that take for the marriages, if you want to celebrate, by all means, we try to discourage the people as much as possible. But if you want to celebrate, do it in a low-key celebration. I now speak about the welfare schemes by the government of Karnataka for the Christian community. The Karnataka government has been good enough, gracious enough to set aside certain funds for the Christian community, what is called the Christian Development Corporation. Earlier it was Christian community help and support for certain things only. But now the government, knowing the needs of the community, has opened up a little more. And for this, a corporation has been formed, of which there are about 9 or 10 members. The chief among them is the chairman of the Christian Minority Development Corporation, Mr. Shantapa Jaffat by name. He is a gentleman. He was earlier the vice chancellor of a university, and he served with greater dignity. He is a non-corrupt person, and he knows that this particular department has also run without any corruption. And so under him along with him there are about 10 to 11, about 10 other officers who will help him and support him to select the projects, etc. So Mr. Jaffat has made a request, Professor Jaffat has made a request that we take it seriously, that we help him in this office of his, and for which he has requested that each diocese, instead of everyone trying to be part of the committee and that each diocese be represented by 3 or 4 persons selected by the church, bishops, or perhaps the community of the people. And this should include also not the Catholics, but also the Protestants and the other denominations, so that they are also included and they also benefit from what is it. So this committee of 4 people from each diocese, perhaps would be 40 or more than that in the whole Karnataka region, they would be a supporting group helping the CDC in order to prepare the projects, in order to identify what is important for us. And for this, Mr. Jaffat has also floated certain flyers as to what help they can be expected from this CDC that is come up now. So along with the earlier goals or other objectives of helping the churches to build the church, to repair the church, to renovate the church, the cemeteries, and also perhaps the church area, compound, etc. Besides this, Mr. Jaffat is also requesting us to make projects or to identify projects that help the community. And for this, for example, for education, for health, and for other things, that we could also suggest that our community benefits from these particular projects, which also will be considered as part of the big budget. The big budget is 250 crores, and for that Mr. Jaffat has requested our help and support so that we make a good program for everybody. And so these flyers which I was speaking of are also given to the people to say that they can suggest programs and projects in these matters. For example, Arivo is an education support that government gives in order to help the people to come up in education. Then also there is what's called the foreign loan subsidy. There are some people perhaps who would like to go abroad. It's a big budget. and they cannot go of their own. So therefore, they request the government to help and support them. About 20 to 30 crores, I am told, would be allotted for this. Then there is also what's called the Shrama Shakti, by which, by dint of work and hard work, people can also take loans in order to step into, for example, bakery, the other small industries which will help and support them. There is also another program called Gangayana, helping for water, the wells, the farming. So these are the programs that can be taken. And then also there is direct loan for the beneficiaries. The poor beneficiaries can apply for these loans. Then subsidized loan or help for women in certain things that the women would like to do. So also computer-based skill trainings, programs. So these are the many things that government wants to open out, and especially for the Christian community, minority community. And therefore, my advice is, in our Archdiocese, we have named a small team of 5 people. The main among them is Father Devdas, and then Father Anthony Swami. Then we have Father Joe Prem Brito. We have also one sister, Jyoti by name, and one of our clerks who helps in the minority department, one Mr. David. So these 5 are considered as representatives of our diocese. So instead of splintering the groups and the messages to everyone, and everyone tries to send the applications, etc., we said that it is better that these applications be routed to these 5 people so that they can select, they can adjust, they can also advise to say that whether the project stands scrutiny or perhaps many things are missing in that. So all this information will be given. So my dear brothers and sisters, as we open out the CDC to the public, especially for the benefit of the Christian community, I request you to make use of these support and subsidies that the government is extending to all of us. We now come to the Saint of the Week. 22nd of this month, November, we celebrate the feast of a very popular saint, Saint Cecilia. You know, traditionally in the 1st century she died, or rather she was martyred. Her story is that she was supposed to be married off to a certain person called Valerian, and she was not interested because she said, my body and soul belongs to Christ, nobody else. So therefore, though she sort of rejected the proposal, she didn't reject the person as such. In fact, we are told that she converted Valerian also as a Christian. He became a Christian, and he also was sympathetic for this woman, Cecilia, who was a great devotee of Jesus and wished to die for Jesus. There's another special thing about Cecilia is that she is considered as the patron of singers, the singers. So therefore, we find always that she is placed near the instruments of singing, the flute or perhaps the others, and therefore she is considered as a patron of the singers. And we have many choirs named after Saint Cecilia, Saint Cecilian choir. When I was in Germany, I remember that particular parish had a very, very active choir called Cecilian choir. So like that, Cecilia is important for us for faith as a martyr. Cecilia is important for us as also a singer, a choir member. Finally, we speak about what you call the jewel of the Archdiocese. This time the jewel is very special, rather it goes a little out of the town as it were, and nestles itself in the mission station of Anikal. Anikal. We have all heard Anikal is in the Ramnagar district, It's not a big place, but at the same time full of joy and enthusiasm for Christianity. In fact, the story of Anekal seems to be going back somewhere in the 18th century, in fact 1711, when a certain Father Manuel de Cunha was martyred there for the sake of faith. And so we have also the blood of the martyrs that is spread, that's sprinkled in the diocese in some places. And the place of Anekal is one of those places where the Jesuit priest Father Manuel de Cunha was martyred, and I would be happy to learn more about him, and also perhaps that he be promoted as a saint of the Archdiocese. A martyr is always special. A martyr is always perhaps a jewel that we cannot compare and see. And therefore I would be very happy if this saint would be projected and his devotion spread towards the others. As regards the Anekal itself, according to the recent history, in 1974, the Archdiocese handed over this particular taluka, Anekal taluka, to the Jesuits, and they happily took it over to say that we would like to work in this mission and develop it in a great sense. And so the first recommendation to the Jesuits was made by the team of the Jesuits headed by Father J.C. Pereira. And he said that perhaps the Jesuits could take up this mission, because not that the diocesans could not be able, but it would be very slow. Whereas Jesuits have their persons, they have their personnel, and therefore the evangelization could be a little more faster. Father Francis Guntapilli is supposed to be the one who built the first church, and Father Francis Guntapilli, he was a young priest at that time. This is about 50 years ago. Father Francis, as you know, died recently, about 2 years ago, and he built the first church. Father J.C. Pereira in 1976, he is supposed to have celebrated the golden jubilee of the mission as such. And Father Deepak Nayak, he also started a particular very special mission, the mission of education, the mission of reading. And therefore he went over many places, opened small libraries, small reading rooms, so small perhaps parlors, reading parlors as such, so that people also could read and be educated as such. And this it seems he spread for 61 villages. In 1976 he started this mission. Slowly, we know St. Joseph's Church of Anekal, we know. St. Joseph's School of Anekal also was important in order to spread the knowledge, and with knowledge to give the people a little backing, as it were, of the sciences, of the education as such, so that they could develop. And thirdly, the Divya Jyoti Ashram also was started in 1978, and at Chandapura is supposed to be a small unit of this Divya Jyoti Ashram. Father Patrick de Mello is remembered for his food for work mission. You know, the people were very poor. Many of them, perhaps there was starvation also. And so he created this with the help of the foreign donors, maybe a food for work, that namely they work at the same time, they earn by way of food, as it were, food packets or the food ration that was given, and that helped the people also to keep themselves healthy and strong. And we also remember Father Rupert, who was the superior of the Anekal mission in 1983. And before that, the Canossian sisters' work, which is also monumental, has to be remembered. The Canossian sisters, along with the Jesuit fathers, in many places they go together, and they took up the education, especially of the girls, and helped the fathers in order to establish the school, the Canossian school, and also education for the girls. There's another development that took place, which very much remarkable. Namely, the Jesuits thought that the training that is given to the seminarians, what we call the novitiate or perhaps the theology, could be done in the local language, in Kannada. So therefore they introduced this particular section of teaching the brothers into the local language, the theology and the theological aspects. And this was started in 1992. This is 1993, Karnataka Regional Theological Extension. And later on, rather recently, in 2021, the Jesuits began the PU College and newly established St. Joseph School, Jnanajyoti, in 2023. So these are the recent developments, but then it all goes back to the St. Joseph's mission of Anekal. You can imagine 50 years ago, perhaps even more than that, Anekal was nothing, just a village. But today it's a throbbing, perhaps an entity to say that there is much more that was done by our Jesuits, and so we praise and bless them for the Jesuit mission of Anekal, along with the church, with the spiritual activities, with the schools and education, with the social development, and also the empowerment of the men and especially women in that area. So we thank the Jesuits very specially for this, and we consider it a very special jewel of our Archdiocese.